we, the jury, unanimously find the aggravating factors are sufficient to warrant a possible sentence of death.
He'd been planning the murders for weeks. After getting fired from his nursing job for stealing prescription medication, Grant Amato entered a deep depression. Unemployed and still living with his parents, the 29-year-old took refuge in online games and pornography. It is here where he met Sylvia, and it is here where his obsession began. Sylvia was a Bulgarian camgirl who was featured on the popular website myfreecams.com. Grant would later say that he saw her and fell in love. But to call his relationship with Sylvia love is a gross distortion of truth. Although MyFreeCams costs nothing to watch, it allows users to tip and send messages to the models that they are viewing. But Grant didn't have any money, and he didn't have a job, so he begged his family for money to throw at the camgirl. The Amatos had 3 sons, Jason, Cody, and Grant. Chad, their father, was a pharmacist, and Margaret, their mother, worked for a medical data company. Both of the parents had high-paying jobs. Grant also had 2 brothers, Jason and Cody. Jason lived apart from the rest of his family with his own wife and child, but Cody still lived in the family home with Grant. He and Grant were exceptionally close. The two had recently went on a trip to Japan together, paid for almost entirely by Cody, and had went to nurse anesthesiologist school together. But whereas Grant flunked out of the program, Cody continued to excel. Although most of us are content with receiving our family's love, Grant felt entitled to his family's money. At first, he received the money from his parents and older brother after telling them that he was attempting to launch a Twitch streaming career. The family naively thought that they were funding this dream, but almost every penny Grant received went to Sylvia. Grant also told Sylvia and the other men who gave her money online that he was a wealthy Twitch streamer, and no one online asked any questions when he started showering Sylvia with money. Within weeks, Grant was hooked. He relied on Sylvia's infrequent acknowledgement like a junkie relies on their smack. A jobless social outcast, Grant had nothing but time, and he spent most of that on Sylvia. In his twisted mind, the two loved each other, but in reality, Grant was burning the only people on Earth who really did care for him. Over the course of 6 months, Grant stole over $200,000 from his family. At first, the family tried to get him help, even sending him to a sex rehabilitation clinic. But Grant left the facility only 6 days in and begged his family to take him back. They allowed him back into the family home, but only under 2 conditions. 1, he had to find a job and start paying his family back for the money that he had stolen for them, and 2, he had to quit talking to Sylvia. The latter stipulation was untenable. This video explains why.
Alright, Sylvia, look at me. I am outside going to check the mail, and I'm asking you if you can please, pretty please, send me one of your videos. I love it so much when you just send them to me. Yeah, I don't like buying your stuff. It makes me feel weird. Could you please send me one though?
Grant felt awkward about buying her videos online because he had convinced himself that he was her boyfriend. In his warped mind, he was her soulmate, not just her client. For him, it felt like his family was ripping him away from the woman that he loved. He continued to talk to Sylvia behind his father's back until his father finally learned of this and then kicked him out of the house for good. The family even accessed Grant's computer while he was at rehab and told Sylvia and the rest of the people online the truth, that Grant was not a wealthy Twitch streamer and that he was simply a disturbed man. But at this point, nothing else mattered to Grant except his fictitious relationship with Sylvia, and he hatched a sickening plan to ensure that his family would never interfere with his relationship again. On January 24th, 2019, Grant Amato executed everyone who lived with him at the family home. Forensic evidence shows that he shot his mother in the back of the head sometime in the afternoon. After that, he ambushed his father with the same gun as soon as he entered the home. And then finally he shot his brother Cody, who was found the next day still wearing his medical scrubs from work. He unlocked his father's phone by using his dead father's fingerprint and made himself an authorized transferee to his life savings. Only a few hours after the murders, Grant had logged onto MyFreeCams and was already showering Sylvia with the money that he had just stolen from his deceased family. As the only surviving and mysteriously absent member of the Amato residence, Grant became an immediate suspect by police. And then, on the morning of January 26, police arrived at the hotel that Grant was staying in and brought him into the station for one of the most haunting interrogations of our times. While talking to police, Grant tried to convince the detectives that his brother must have killed his parents in a dramatic murder-suicide. He was trying to set up the brother that he had murdered for the crime that he had committed, and he treats his surviving brother to a similarly disrespectful deception. When detectives brought Jason Amato into the interrogation room, he laments that Grant took away all of his family. In response to this, Grant says nothing. An innocent person is likely to immediately protest their innocence when being accused of a crime, whereas a guilty person is much more likely to respond to the accusation with defensive silence. This is a tacit admission in which a person admits to doing something by not denying that they did it. Law enforcement often place extremely high stress on a suspect so that they make mistakes just like that. In the summer of 2019, Grant was convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder and was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. And even in the courtroom, Grant's obsession with Sylvia was clear. Grant became transfixed when pictures of Sylvia were shown as evidence in court, and the prosecution noted this in their closing argument. Jurors got to see for themselves the desperate look in his eyes when he saw pictures of his fantasy Camgirl lover. Grant Amato is a sick individual whose twisted fantasies cost the lives of 3 innocent people, and although we will never know what exactly went through his mind on that horrible January afternoon, we can find comfort knowing that this animal will die in prison.